something to highlight is that if you've got a Performance Max campaign using maximized conversion value, which basically it should be using, everyone in the community that I'm speaking to is really just using this maximized conversion value bid strategy when it comes to Performance Max. We're seeing the best results for this. There is really only three things you can do to optimize it. You're either changing the ROAS target, you're changing the budget, or you're analyzing and adjusting product listing groups. You're activating some or pausing others. The extent of everything you can do is contained within those three actions. We're going to look at each of them now. When it comes to adjusting the ROAS target, what I mean by that, of course, is clicking on bidding, going through and literally changing this. For example, from 270 to 250, going ahead and clicking save. So I think what I have here is a perfect example of how I have gone about the process of optimizing a Performance Max campaign and some of the implications that my changes have made. So we basically launched in early April. You can see we're quite an early adopter of Performance Max at this point in time. And now I've launched the campaign at a budget of $50 per day and a ROAS target of 250%. First of all, you'll notice the blue line here, cost, that there was literally, we weren't spending $50 a day. The system, we were offering it $50 a day, but we also said we want to hit a ROAS target of 250. So that's $2.5 for every dollar that goes in. But it took a couple of weeks for it to basically ramp up to there, 2 to 3 weeks to be precise. Finally, on 25th of April, we spent $66, but it definitely didn't get there very quickly. Now, this is quite a feature of Performance Max that we haven't seen in other campaign types, where you can set a higher budget, but it's super restricted by your ROAS target. And so we've gotten to this point here. Now, I've seen it's doing well. I basically made the sort of determination that 250% as a ROAS target was too low. I could up that to 280%. And that's exactly what I did on the 26th of April. So I upped the ROAS target. Immediately, you see a slight dip in the blue line here. So cost goes back down as the system adjusts to the increased target. And then it works its way up once again. So that's the constant process. If you're going to increase the target, cost will go down, and you wait for it to come back up and achieve that. And then you try to increase the target again, or more likely is you increase the budget. And you're constantly playing with those two levers in a way that honestly comes down to a lot of intuition. So look at what's happened here then. We've gotten to this point, it's built up again, it's spending $60 a day. So we've reached that daily budget, even higher than the daily budgets. 60, it's kind of accounting for the underspend of earlier days. And then what I've done, instead of increasing the target even further and going through that process of really low spend and waiting for it to build back up, I've basically increased the budget. I've said I'm happy with this level of return on ad spend, 2.8 roughly, even days as high as 6.6, 7. I'm actually willing to spend more money and get more clicks and hopefully more overall conversion value, because that's what we want. So on this day, I doubled the budget from $50 to $100. Again, though, it's not just going to double its spend straight away. So it's continuing to ramp up. It's just ramping up further without completely reducing that level of spend, if that makes sense. So you notice we go from 60 to 30 to 50, and it gradually increases over time while maintaining that 280% ROAS target, to the point where we get to here, or even sort of here, and we're spending finally $100. So each one of these changes with Performance Max takes a couple of weeks to sort of come to fruition, but budgets and ROAS targets are very, very interesting in the way that they interact with each other. And I hope that actually just by observing this, you kind of begin to develop an understanding for the implications of a change. It will take weeks to see the results of some of the changes you make. You need to have patience with this. It's not like Facebook ads that will happen overnight. If I increase the time period here from not just 10th to the 22nd, as you can see on the screen, but to a little bit further on, I want to show you a mistake that I made actually. And that was around about this period. So notice how the blue line cost massively increases while return on ad spend actually dips very hard. So that is not a good result, right? Basically what I did was I said, this ramp up in spend is taking too long. It's too slow. We want to grow faster. So I removed the ROAS target completely. I said, we don't want to give you a target. We don't want to restrict you, Google. Spend our full daily budget. And we assume, because we've got a good website with good conversion rates, that the sales will come. But that didn't happen. So our spend rocketed. And I had to add, about this note here, I had to add back the ROAS target, which again took us back to this kind of process of gradually building our way back up. And ultimately, that's where we've been since, to the point where, as early as sort of 1 to 2 weeks ago, I upped our target return on ad spend from as low as 200 just to kind of get things going again, up to 270, and now we're again achieving, spending $80 a day, achieving a ROAS of 5. So we're kind of where we were back at this point in mid to late May. So you see, sometimes the implications of changes, they're not always positive, But this should, at least this particular week here, I thought was very interesting to see how Performance Max reacts to a change in return on ad spend target quite differently to how Smart Shopping did, how Standard Shopping does, even how Search does. So it was a significant increase in spend with not much return on ad spend to show for it. So I recommend basically starting with a conservatively sort of low target return on ad spend and a relatively low budget, $20 to $50 a day. Make sure that it can hit that return on ad spend, and then either raise the ROAS, return on ad spend, or raise the budget, and constantly play with those two numbers as you scale the account. When it comes to the third pillar of our optimization sort of levers that I mentioned, which is our listing groups analysis, I've actually been making progress here as well with this particular client. And just to show you what I mean is basically, notice how we have two different asset groups, skipping ropes and then everything but skipping ropes. This is a super simple breakdown, but to show you what I mean, I've basically spent the process of the past few months analyzing the performance of different sort of product groups here. Massage ball, gym rings. Like, we've got a whole different series of product groups here, and basically I ultimately decided that I needed to eliminate everything but skipping ropes from skipping ropes. So I needed to separate those two and make a distinction, because I was seeing a different return on ad spend for each of those two product listing groups basically. And I noticed that skipping ropes were doing quite well while the others weren't really doing well. And also what this meant was that by separating them and getting different data for each of them, so I get different data for each, but the main thing is that I can provide different assets for each. So we had a lot of skipping focused assets, videos and creative and headlines even, and then everything but skipping ropes related to sort of apparel and general fitness equipment and products like that. So just a little sort of inkling to show you how I'm using listing groups in addition to adjusting bids and budgets in order to optimize this Performance Max campaign. And we're ultimately in quite a good position with it. We've scaled our budget. We've tripled the budget since we began 3 months ago, and that should be tripled another 3 months from now. So these are the kind of levers we have to pull. There's no hard and fast sort of process or rule that you can follow. You need to basically understand your own product data, understand what's profitable, what's not, understand how is the best way to kind of divide asset groups for your business. And that's basically going to lead to long-term success with the Performance Max campaign.